4,000 feet, speed 180 knots, 122.
Hi, it's Natalie flyGIRL Kelley, and on this episode of Cockpits and Cocktails, we dive into the charitable organization of Wings of Hope, which is based in St. Louis, Missouri. I've been involved with Wings of Hope a few times over the past few years and really enjoy that organization, being around those people. They have a real heart for helping people and have combined my love of aviation into this awesome organization. Join us on this episode of Cockpits and Cocktails. Hope you enjoy it.
Okay, so welcome to this episode of Cockpits and Cocktails. It's a mouthful.
Totally. Cute name.
Thank you. We are here at Wings of Hope, and we've got, and actually I was on the website, and there's quite a few women involved on the board, right?
We have some good female leadership here.
Yeah, so go ahead and introduce yourself and tell me what your role is here at Wings of Hope.
Sure. My name is Dr. Jessica Watson. I'm the Director of Programs here at Wings of Hope. I've been with the organization about 6.5 years now. And so Wings of Hope, do you want me to tell you more about what we're about?
Uh-huh.
So our mission is saving and changing lives through the power of aviation. We've been around for a while, over 50 years. We were founded in 1962. We have been nominated twice for the Nobel Peace Prize in the last 10 years, and that is for our international humanitarian work that we were founded to do. And so we were initially founded when we heard a story of a nun who was also a pilot and a nurse who was working in the Turkana Desert in Kenya, and she was flying a plane that had wing cloths, and the hyenas were actually attracted to the glue that held together the wing cloths. And so when she would come in at night, they would creep out and they would chew holes in the plane. And so she was grounded. So 4 St. Louis businessmen heard about her plight, and they raised money to send her a plane that actually had metal wings. So in that process, they found out there was a lot of need in really remote areas for medical access, and that planes were what was necessary in order to provide it. So we have worked in 48 countries over that time, and we have always partnered with local communities that have an organization there that is a separate nonprofit, and that we know that the plane will be in good hands long term. So we are then working to build their capacity so that they are able to maintain the services through aviation in the long term.
Okay, so you actually get a plane to that area for their use.
Yes, often that is the case, and that has been historically the case in many countries around the world. Mm-hmm. We also can help organizations source parts for planes that are really difficult, to get it to get to Zambia or something like that. And at times we provide fuel stipends. We provide volunteer A&Ps to go and do an annual at several locations, like in Tanzania or in Nicaragua. That has been a relationship that we've had. And at times we've sourced pilots, field pilots, for Belize, for instance. So the need varies depending on the organization, but the theme is always aviation related, and in many cases it's medical related as well.
So because you actually have planes, though, that you don't take, that you use for transporting patients.
So that's another big part of what we do. So 17 years ago, we decided that there was the same kind of medical access need here in the United States, especially in rural areas. And so we founded the Medical Relief and Air Transport Program. And so for that one, we run 2 of our planes here, Pipers, and we have a cadre of volunteer pilots. We have about 20 pilots that dedicate their time to be available to transport patients when necessary. It's about 200 patients a year. Many of them are children. Many of them have really specialized diseases where they need to reach a medical professional that is really far away from their home, and they need to go on a regular basis. They might not be able to fly commercial because they're immunocompromised if they're in cancer treatments or something like that. And so in those cases, we fly them.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I noticed you have people donate airplanes. Is that how you typically get the planes that you use to take to other places?
Yes, we have a strong airline donation program, and we typically get about 20 planes donated a year. And the priority on those donations is always, first, do we have a need for that particular type of plane in the field internationally, or would that be an upgrade for our domestic program here? And then if that is not the case, then we, using our amazing volunteer support that we have in the hangar of many retired A&Ps or engineers, they completely rehabilitate the planes and then they sell them, and those funds go directly to support our programs.
Okay, gotcha.
I know you guys have done like raffles of aircraft as well. Like, what qualifies it as, hey, we're going to sell this airplane, we're going to keep it, we're going to raffle it? Like, what is that?
Yeah, our raffles have become hugely popular in the last few years. So now we have 2 raffles a year in the spring and in the fall. And it's a great deal, right? You get a plane for $75.
The tickets sell out in an hour, or
they sell out in less than a day. It's amazing to see. That's one of the biggest fundraisers of our year now. And so, it has to be, if in terms of just like the back end tax purposes and stuff, we have to keep it below a certain value. So that limits the type of planes that we choose from our pool of donated planes. And then certain planes are going to be more like widely wanted or desired. Absolutely. Especially for maybe beginning pilots, which many are aspiring pilots when they buy a ticket. And so we choose it based on that. And we also have we have second prizes and third prizes that are some amazing avionics support and lessons.
Okay, so do you how many planes, or do you ever turn a plane away?
We do if we feel that the amount of effort and labor and cost to put into it is going to be more than we can really take on in our hangar at the time, or it's just not going to be a net benefit for us.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Now, what do you do for the company?
So as director of programs, I manage 3 programs, and I've only told you about 2 of them right now, but Natalie was actually involved in the 3rd one, which was a recent addition. And so I make sure that we are evidence-based in what we do, and we have evaluations built in so that we can see the impact of what we do. So that's really what I am very laser focused on, and then expanding into new opportunities, new funding realms for these areas. I also manage the grants for the organization, so we're always looking for new partners that might want to support our programs in all of those areas. But so shall I tell you about our 3rd program? Okay, great. So it's called Soar into STEM, and this is our foray into direct STEM education. And we decided to take this direction because we have this amazing concentration of resources here out in our hangar. We have a huge number of volunteers that are highly skilled. Many of them are retired from aviation professions. And we have these tools and all of these different types of planes that come through our hangar. And we wanted to connect with some of our local high schools and middle schools, where right now we're serving people around the world, we're serving people within the 600-mile radius, but we wanted to really share our resources with the St. Louis community. And so we decided to reach out to underserved schools that might not have any exposure to aviation careers, aviation mentorship, might not have access to STEM resources. And so we designed a program that it's a 4-week program on Saturdays, and it's targeted at women and students of color. And many of them ended up being middle school students or early high school. And so we have a day where we focus on the mechanics of aviation. We bring pilots to talk with them. We have a day where we focus on what it takes to be an A&P mechanic, and the kids get their own 15-piece tool roll they'll take home afterwards, and they actually get to work on a plane that's at the beginning of the annual process. And so they took off the propeller, they drained the oil, they opened the wing flaps, the panels on the wings, and they kind of like use their flashlights and their mirrors to check for corrosion. They took out the interior. They really had a fantastic hands-on experience of what it takes to work on a plane, and many of them had never used tools before in that way. They got a tour of the air traffic control by a female air traffic controller, which was fantastic. And we really connected with Boeing. Boeing is the major sponsor for this program, and so we had mentors who were from Boeing, who are engineers. We had a female engineer from Boeing come speak about the different areas of aviation engineering that they could go into. And then at the end, the real kind of cherry on the top of it all was they got to take a flying lesson. So many of them had never been in an airplane, even a commercial airplane.
What an amazing program.
Cool.
It's been so rewarding to see it from the beginning to the end.
I think Bret said you've added, you've added a summer session or something?
We've added so much this year. Last year it was the pilot program, so it was the first time that we were going through it all. This year we've doubled the number of participants in the program, so we had a spring session, now we have a fall session as well, and so that's twice as many school districts that are going to be able to be involved. And then we've also added in a summer internship program and summer camps. And we've updated our field trip and our community outreach program as well. So we're really, we have a new focus on education that has resulted in touching thousands of more people and exposing them to aviation.
Yeah, that's totally different than basically what your original mission kind of is, right?
Well, we see it as an expansion, you know? It's ways to change lives through aviation in other ways, basically.
Now, do you have a background in aviation?
I do not.
Yeah. Have you learned a lot about aviation?
I have learned so much. It's amazing. You know, over those 6 years, especially since this year I've taken on leadership in the MAT program, so the Medical Relief and Air Transport program here in the United States. So I'm working directly with our team of pilots and much more directly with our hangar staff as well to keep those two planes that we rely on up and running. So I have really enjoyed everything that I've learned.
Yeah. Are there many pilots that work in the office here?
No, the pilots don't tend to work in the office. They give us so much in terms of volunteer hours by, flying the patients, but then we also make sure that we have a training program, that is constant. They have to keep their IPCs up and they have to do night landings. And so
we were talking about that last night. We met with an air traffic controller and he was telling us about you guys being out at currency and things. So
I mean, the currency is a real commitment on the part of our staff. And we have several staff pilots that are volunteers, but we call them our staff pilots. And so we have a chief pilot and then 2 staff pilots right now that do all that training and manage all the pilots, make sure that everything is up to date. And so, they're not on staff, but they do a lot for us.
So that was one of the questions, one of the things I wanted to talk about was the pilots. So you said you had 20. How do they get to be into something like this? What are the qualifications? Where do you find them? Are they all volunteer? How much do they actually work? How much time are they spending flying? And how does that work? How do they pick out trips and things like that?
Yeah, well, so, we have really strict requirements for what, some would say an unrealistic number of hours, but, we think that it's really important for the safety of our patients that they have a good amount of experience. They come from the commercial side or from private pilots. They have to be instrument rated.
1,000
we
hours.
have several, over 1,000 hours. Multi-engine. And I think I worked to train on some of these, but it's important that we have high standards. Absolutely. And then some of our pilots fly hundreds of hours every year, and some of them just do a couple. But basically, when we schedule a patient, then our flight operations manager sends out a weekly email with the opportunities for volunteering, and they can sign up with a co-pilot. All of our flights have pilot in command and a co-pilot, and so it's a first come first serve basis.
Okay, well, we want to welcome Bret. Bret just came in to our podcast here, and he can join in the discussion with us. Bret, why don't you introduce yourself first? Tell us what you do here.
Well, it's great to be with you, Natalie and Alyssa. I'm Bret Heinrich. I'm the president and CEO of Wings of Hope. And it's so nice to see two of our favorite pilots that are encouraging young women everywhere to consider this career. We need more young women, and we're really excited. Jessica may have explained to you a little bit about our Soar into STEM program to encourage young women and students of color. And what we're both really excited about is how that program encourages people to see aviation through a humanitarian lens. The plane that our kiddos worked on now is in Paraguay, and it's saving and changing lives there. And that just is so important that they see that aviation can really make a difference.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that was a really neat aspect of the program that I didn't really talk so much about. But the plane that the kids work on in the program is always going to be going into the field. It's going to be used in our mission work, and the kids actually learn a lot about that mission as well. So they learned about Paraguay. They learned about what the plane was going to be doing. It's going to be bringing food assistance and medical assistance and dentists and doctors into really rural areas and indigenous groups in Paraguay, and so they actually know that they are directly contributing to that mission because they were the ones who started the annual, and then we've kept them in the loop. When our Paraguay field director visited us just over the last few weeks, we did a lot of videos with him where he was thanking the kids, and then some of them came to the plane blessing, and then when the plane left. Cool. It was a really fun.
I don't think I could be there. I'd be like bawling. I'm too emotional to be here all the time, guys.
There were absolutely some tears, even maybe the pilots, I want to say.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So they get updates on the progress of what's going on with that plane that they worked on. That's neat.
Yep.
I think that's great to show children at such young ages that they can make an impact through something, and I think that's kind of what we like to promote, and that you can make change, you can really help others with doing just very similar
and even things that you really like. I mean, things that you're into can in some way be turned into benefit to someone else. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, okay, back to the pilot thing, because I'm really curious about this. So, do most of them have other jobs, or are they mostly retired? Or is it a mix?
Most of them are retired.
Okay.
It's hard to have a schedule with an airline and still be able to do missions for us. Some of them took early retirement, and so they have other interests. But I would say they're all retired right now. Isn't that true?
Almost all. Yeah, we have a couple who have more flexible schedules. Phil for being one, and just it's a great group of guys that donate all of their time.
And not just guys. We have our first.
I was like, do we have a
female pilot who just joined us? She just retired, and the first thing she wanted to do was fly with us. So we're really happy to have Leslie on the team.
And Alyssa, I told you already, we're saving a spot for you.
I have been looking at those requirements, and I'm just like staring at them, and I guess I need to put them on my goals and my dreams.
Work on those hours.
The hours aren't going to be the issue. It's going to be just
the ratings.
Getting getting everything, getting it all compiled, and then my schedule's pretty flexible. But I see your requirements online, but what are some things that you look at when hiring or, getting these volunteer pilots? Do you say, hey, it looks like your schedule's too busy, or this isn't a great fit, or like, how does that work for you guys? And
one of the real key things our chief pilot does is make sure that it's not just pilots chasing hours. It's pilots that are committed to the mission. And that's a real drill down for us. And if they tell us they're interested only in building hours, then we really can't use them.
I really think this is an organization that you want to put your heart into it, and that's why 100%. I went to the event last year with you guys, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is when I think there was a Belize opening for a pilot or something, and I'm like, I'm quitting my job. I'm quitting my job, and I'm moving to Belize.
We're in a pilot search right now for Belize.
I have no children, and I am ready. it's something that I'm passionate about, and I've done mission trips and things before, and just kind of being able to do something that I'm passionate about and doing that together would just be so amazing.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. Everyone who's here, they're here because they have a heart for our mission.
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons I love working here. It's really inspirational. Absolutely.
Do most of the pilots stick around for a long time?
They do. They stay with us for a long time. And I want to say another thing that we look for that our chief pilot prioritizes is that they are a team player, and that they will make calls that put safety first. So I would say that those are our three top requirements.
Yeah.
And our pilots are ready to jump in anytime. We received a call of a woman who was dying of cancer and needed to make a trip that was even a little bit outside of our range over Thanksgiving. And 3 of our pilots stepped up and said, you know what, I will cancel my Thanksgiving plans. Just call me when you need me.
Oh, wow.
And it's that's the kind of spirit that really is pervasive, certainly among our pilots and the other 300 volunteers that contribute to Wings of Hope. Throughout the organization, our purchasing department is made up of volunteers. Our accounting department, with the exception of our CFO, all volunteers. It's really incredible. I've never seen an organization use volunteers the way we do at Wings of Hope.
Absolutely. And I mean, a great example is the Paraguay Ferry that we just did. I mean, that is such an inspirational story. So one of our staff pilots, Steve Williams, volunteer, but we call them staff pilots. He flies for our MAT program, our domestic program, but he volunteered to fly down with our Paraguay field director. It's a 4,000-mile journey.
Wow.
You fly across the Caribbean, you fly across the Amazon rainforest.
Wow.
It is with tremendous risk. They have 100-degree days and no air conditioning in that 182 that went down there. And you know, he said, yes, absolutely, I'll step up. And they did it safely. They did a fantastic job. You know, you have to deal with customs and visa requirements and a lot of uncertainty. But we had a fantastic team behind them, and you know, they delivered that plane, and it's going to be put to really good use.
Absolutely. Just last year, we had 56 new volunteers come through our door and sign up to be volunteers. Wow. We started tracking their hours, and we had almost $1 million worth of donated volunteer time last year. Wow. So it's really incredible.
Yeah.
We are really built on the backs of our volunteers, and we're super, super grateful.
Hey everybody, hope you're enjoying Alyssa and Natalie's discussion with the folks at Wings of Hope. Just wanted to drop in here for 30 seconds so we can hear from a fellow podcaster and friend of Cockpits and Cocktails. He's going to tell you about his podcast we think you might enjoy, and then we'll get right back to the discussion with Wings of Hope.
Hi, it's Chuck from Soaring the Sky, a glider pilots podcast. Join us each week as we talk to glider pilots from all over the world as they share their story and their adventures in the air. You can find us on your favorite podcast app. I hope you join us soon on Soaring the Sky.
This is your headquarters?
Yes.
Yeah.
So are there any other like satellite offices or anything else across the U.S. or where you have volunteers, or is this where everything is done right here?
This is our headquarters, and everything is done here, but we work in partnership around the world. So our model is that we partner with other nonprofits when we work internationally. We're not going to have Wings of Hope Paraguay or Wings of Hope Zambia. You know, we have a strong vetting process where we choose strong partners that have a history of impact and that are, you know, they've been in the community for years. They have those relationships built. You know, they're going to do the work, and we're going to support them, and we're going to help lift them up.
And philosophically, that's so important to us because we want the people in the country to be able to access sources in country and to have people right there that'll be there that know the needs better than us. And from a practical standpoint, we are able to put our resources more into the service and the needs of the people rather than building brick and mortar structures all across the world and trying to maintain those and staff those. Yeah. So it's a great model.
Yeah. And how long have you been involved with the Wings of Hope?
So I took this position just about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And I love it.
What did you do before?
My whole career's been in the nonprofit sector. I've raised money for older adults who outlive their resources at the end of their lives in a couple of different organizations. And then my career in nonprofit started out promoting cross-cultural exchange between Japan and the United States.
Yeah. We had I remember a student when I lived in a small town, mostly when I grew up, but there was a neighbor that had a Japanese exchange student. He came over for a little while, and then my neighbor went over to Japan for a little while. That was really cool. I bet that was fun to be involved in.
Incredible experience. Truly a foreign culture and language from the east to the west, and just to be able to expose our students. What we were doing at the time was bringing native-speaking college teaching assistants from Japan and placing them all across the United States to work in high schools and middle schools. So our students could hear a native speaker speak the language, and it gave them the native speaker teaching experience. And this was when Japan's economy was at its highest before their bubble burst, and America felt like we need to be able to negotiate with Japan. And so there were Japanese programs in high schools and middle school all across the...
And great background for his job now, because Bret has had to travel all over the world to visit our international field sites. You know, Bret's gone to Colombia, Ecuador, Paraguay, Zambia, Tanzania, and so it's great background for that.
Wow, yeah.
To see the work happening, it's really a miracle taking place every day in these locations where there's no resources. In Zambia, our partner flies into 12 remote villages where the hospitals are truly cinder block hospitals. I was going to go in on my first day there and observe surgery, and the hospital could not produce a clean pair of scrubs for me to wear. So they had to find one somewhere else and go take it home and wash it and bring it back the next day so I could go in. You literally almost have to bring your own bandages with you in some of these remote areas.
Wow.
Now, being an aviation-based company, I've traveled a little bit in Europe and things. Aviation in the United States is 100% different here than it is in other countries. Do you guys ever find roadblocks with saying, like, we want to put this airplane here in Zambia or wherever? What is their aviation, like, guidelines? Like, how do you guys deal with that, or do your partners deal with that? Like, trying, airspace and getting the plane, getting all of those things and fuel. Like,
I mean, the logistical challenges as soon as you exit the United States just ramp up, tremendously. And so it is mostly our partners that are having to deal with that, but we support them in that, and we know that their relationship with their local governments and their national governments are key to their success. So we try and support that. And when we vet new partnerships, we make sure that they have already thought about that and they're building those relationships. And so in some cases, such as Nicaragua, they have built great relationships with the local governments such that they're going to let them keep their N registration, even though the plane is running in country. So they're not forcing them to register as a Nicaraguan plane. And there are several benefits. There are quite a few benefits to keeping that U.S. registration, that N registration. So things like that, we try and support them. But most of the time, unless it's the kind of ferry trip that we were talking about going down to Paraguay, we're not having to directly leap those hurdles.
How do they find, like you were saying in Paraguay, where do they get their pilots?
So in Paraguay, in some cases we work with missionary organizations because they're the ones that are willing to commit long-term to living in really, really remote areas and working for little or no pay. And so in Paraguay, we partner with a church that has been there for over 30 years, and it is led by a pilot. And so the pastor actually is the pilot, and he's the one who's taking the dentists and doctors into the remote areas.
And how busy are they when they, how much do you think he flies?
So we have different models, and different field sites have different numbers of hours that they're flying on a yearly basis. In Paraguay, it is more of a monthly model, like fly in, fly out model. So they'll go for a weekend, a long weekend, and so they'll be able to bring in medical professionals and have a focused clinic, and bring in a lot of food aid and do vocational training, all in this kind of concentrated several day period, and on a schedule that the indigenous communities all the way around, they expect it, so they know to come, even though it could be a day's walk for them. They can rely on the fact that it will happen. And the reason why they're able to have that reliability is the plane, to be honest, because the roads are terrible. So in the rainy season, they're not able to get through, or there might be a reason why the roads are closed. But with the plane, then they're able to provide that consistency, and that so they'll fly on a monthly basis, but then they'll also fly medevacs, not extremely frequently, but maybe like 20 times a year or something like that.
Yeah. Are there any other organizations that do something similar to what you do?
We're pretty unique, but there are public benefit aviation organizations.
Yeah, certainly in the United States there are organizations, just as Jess was saying, that are in that public benefit space, Angel Flight West and a number of others. But internationally, we're a little bit unique. There are some wonderful organizations that do things on a broad scale, but might be focused on a certain type of treatment, or like Doctors Without Borders. They do great work, but their model's a little bit different than us. They go in, my understanding is, and deal more with sort of crisis intervention, and we're more in it for the long term to ensure that people have continued access to health care. And you mentioned pilots. One of the things that we're really excited about, there's a young man in Tanzania named Richard who grew up around our partner there, Flying Medical Service. His mom is the cook for the organization, and ever since he was a little boy, he's been around the airplanes, and he's now of an age where he's finished high school, and he wants to fly for Flying Medical Service. And so we're helping make that dream come true with him. And for us, that's really important philosophically, because we want to support the native people of the country in continuing to provide service to their countrymen.
I wonder how, I guess you would know, but is it pretty challenging in a place like that to actually get your pilot's license?
Well, that is an interesting case. As Jess was saying, some of our countries, they maintain their N registration through agreements that were made long ago, and they might be grandfathered in. In this particular case, that's the case. So he will need to be registered with a U.S. pilot's license, and so we're helping them figure that out. He'll probably come to the United States
to train
and get his license, and then go back and serve. He's committed to, he said, I'll certainly meet the minimum criteria of 3 years of service, but then probably way beyond that, because that's where his family is, and that's where his life is.
Now, within the United States, is it the MAPS program? How does one apply if they needed those services, or how do they... What do you do for them? Are they paying for these things? How does it work?
How do they find you?
So for the Medical Relief and Air Transport Program here in the United States that flies 600-mile radius around St. Louis, patients contact us. They can contact us through our website. We have a form online, and we reach out to them with a medical records access form, basically. So they let us know the details about their condition. They have to be stable enough to fly with us. We can fly stretcher patients, so we can fly non-ambulatory folks. We can do oxygen, but we can't do IVs at this point. So because it's a non-pressurized cabin, and so there's like weight restrictions and certain things about the condition that need to be met in order for it to be safe for us to fly them. And so we have a medical team that reviews the patient records confidentially and sees whether it's a good fit for us. And we also do provide commercial tickets on a limited basis as well.
Gotcha.
Alyssa, you asked about cost. There really is no cost.
Yes,
to
it's
our
absolutely
patients.
free, and we will fly as many times as necessary in order to reach the desired outcome.
Yeah. Do doctors ever contact you?
They
about?
do.
Okay.
At this point, we have great relationships with a lot of hospitals in that geographic area, and certain doctors will refer us on a regular basis.
When we first started the program 16 years ago, there was an assumption by this organization that, well, we're a pretty small organization, we're offering a free service, let's not get out and make promises we can't fulfill and have long waiting lists. Well, now we're in a different place, and so Jess and her team have been doing an amazing job to establish relationships with health clinics, with hospitals all across our 29 state range to say, hey, we're here, we're ready.
If there's anything we can do to you or for you,
get the information in the caseworkers' hands so they know that we are a referral point for patients. My first flight I took here at Wings of Hope was with a young boy from rural Missouri who had burns over 60% of his body, and his general physician said, you're to the mother, you need to take him to Cincinnati. Well, that's a long journey for a family because that's where the Shriners burn unit is, and they drove the first time, and the caseworker said, you're in Missouri, why don't you call Wings of Hope? And so he's been flying ever since, and he will make many, many trips back and forth until he's entirely healed.
Wow. That's really great. Now, your aircraft do you fly two pilots? Do you fly one?
We always have a co-pilot.
Co-pilot, okay. Same requirements, just...
Yep. All same requirements. And we do have a team of volunteer medics that can fly with a patient if they require that. So there's just enough room for patient, caregiver, and medic in our planes, and then the two pilots.
Yeah, so that's nice that you're able to possibly take caregiver and,
there's always a caregiver.
Always
pretty
caregiver,
much.
yeah.
We can take stretcher patients. We don't take as many because more of our patients we see have needs that are ongoing, like clubfoot babies or cancer patients, where they're facing many, many trips. They're not emergency patients, but they're patients that need to go a long distance to reach specialized care.
Yeah.
And it would be absolutely unaffordable for a family to do that. You think about parents that are having to give up their jobs in order to drive these long distances, the impact on other children in the home, where the parents need to be away for much longer. So it can just have a huge ripple effect on a family.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of volunteers, but how are you affording to take these patients? Like, what makes... Is it the airplane sales? Like, what is your main fundraising?
Let Bret answer this one.
It's funny you ask because tonight at the Chase Park Plaza,
Tonight?
Yes.
Available.
And I believe you will both be there with us. And that gala raises money specifically for the domestic program, the MAT program. Because we're providing the direct services here in the U.S., this is our largest line item every year. It's the most expensive thing we do is fly patients here in the U.S. We fuel the planes, we maintain the planes, we pay for all the people that do those things for us. And so we really invest a lot of our fundraising strategies in and around the MAT program. If you think of our revenue in buckets, certainly airplane sales, planes are donated to us each year, and then if we can't use them in the field to help people, we are able to sell those for program revenue. We have an amazing team in the hangar that can get the planes up to speed and make sure they're an annual and all of that. Then traditional philanthropy. We have just a great number of donors around the country that believe in our mission and will make charitable contributions. And then certainly event income, with the gala this evening being our largest source of income for the MAT program.
And we talked about the raffle too as another big one.
Yeah.
Which I've not won yet. I'm kind of upset.
Keep on trying.
I know. I always buy like the 3-pack.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of these days.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks. Anything else that you want to share?
What is the best way if somebody wants to volunteer, or if somebody is maybe interested in your organization and how to help, fundraise, anything? Yeah. What is the best way to go about reaching you guys and finding out about these programs?
Absolutely. So if you are here locally in the region, the St. Louis, if you can drive to St. Louis, the very best thing to do is come see us, walk through our building, meet our pilots, experience Wings of Hope and our volunteers, and you'll be hooked. You'll want to become involved with us. If you can't drive here, if you can't get here to visit with us, our website is www.wingsofhope.ngo, and our direct line is 636-537-1302. And we use volunteers not just here in St. Louis, but we would love to visit with anyone across the country or across the world who wants to be part of our mission. There are roles that we can definitely benefit from having you involved with us.
Yeah, and I did want to mention too, since you might have a younger audience for your podcast, we have a Young Ambassadors program, which is our young professionals group. Age 21 to 45, and they do some
We're in that group
amazing
still.
programs.
No, I'm not. I'm 1 year out of it. I'm in the senior group, I guess.
You can be an honorary member, definitely. But they do some really fun events throughout the year that do some wonderful fundraising for us. So that's another way that you can get involved. And many people across the country have started to do online fundraisers for us as well. So that's another possibility.
Absolutely. Alyssa, so we're going to make sure you're at the next meeting.
That's right.
I would love to be a part of that. And, it's I don't usually say no to anything that I love so much, aviation. And
that's our problem. There's too many things.
I'm about an hour away, so yeah.
Oh, and you can just fly in.
If you find me sleeping at the back of the hangar, don't be alarmed.
We'll save you a spot.
Yeah. So tell me about, Alyssa's been, but what's the event tonight? What's it going to be like?
So the event tonight will be 462 of our closest friends in one room at the Chase Park Plaza, the Corazon Ballroom. And there'll be opportunities for silent auction items to bid on, live auction items.
That was my weakness, those darn silent auctions.
We've got a lot of those.
I will tell you that just bring some Kleenexes. There's always a few tear jerkers.
We've got a couple of our patients that are going to be there to tell you about their stories, and they're amazing.
I'm tearing up thinking about it. Don't even think about it.
Wait till you meet Isaac. He's about this tall, little blonde. He's so adorable.
Yeah, you will hear amazing stories this evening that really get at the heart of what we do, particularly here in the United States. We've also made some live auction items available that I'm really excited about. One in particular, whoever wins that item will be going to Colombia, in the country of Colombia, to experience a Wings of Hope mission firsthand. To go into the field with our partner there in Colombia on a medical brigade, and it truly will be a life-changing experience.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we got to see the auctioneer, meet her. She was getting ready for her big night, I guess.
Yeah.
How many items are going to be in the live auction tonight?
I believe we have 14 live auction items. Some great items. A villa in Italy for 10 people.
I'll take that.
So
I got a beautiful quilt last year that's Wings of Hope. So I think next year I should probably donate one. I should probably make one.
Yeah, because you make quilts. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We'll take it. That sounds great.
We'll take it.
Yeah. So lots of fun tonight. You'll meet some great people that all have our mission at heart. And we hope to raise a significant amount of money for the MET program.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah.
Thanks for meeting with us. I know this is a busy day for you. I'm sure you got a lot going on. You've been hosting people at your house, and you got this thing tonight.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
We really appreciate what you guys are doing in the community and across the world. So
oh my goodness!
Thank you
well,
so
much. We think of you as part of our extended Wings of Hope family.
How did we even get connected? Did you reach out to me?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I called you, I think, and talked about Soaring to STEM.
That's right.
And we didn't even mention that Natalie was here as one of our speakers for the Sword to Stone program that we did this last year. And so she was really inspirational for the women, the girls that are in that program.
You never know who you're gonna reach. Just let them know that, hey, I'm involved in this, and I fly, and
And it was so exciting to see your scholarship announced the other day. Encouraging women to get into this profession. That's awesome. So thank you for what you do. Maybe you'll get a few more volunteer pilots here, females. That would be
cool. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Send them our way.
Alyssa's at the bottom of the list.
We've got a place for you. Just get here when you can.
That's right. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It was very interesting. I felt like I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I want to thank the listeners for tuning in to this episode of Cockpits and Cocktails. I hope that you learned a little bit about Wings of Hope, and maybe you have a desire to reach out and see what you can do for this wonderful organization. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe and pass this along. This is Natalie flyGIRL Kelley. Blue skies.
But doubt is hard to restrain.